So, last weekend I watched the Backrooms movie, and honestly, I thought it was pretty interesting and the production quality was genuinely insane. So, I thought, what wouldn't be a better idea than reading some Backrooms horror stories from Reddit while playing some Minecraft? Today, I'm just gonna work on my world, building my house, and just gathering materials because I just started this world. Anyways, let's get to the story. So, our story that we're going to be reading today is called The Backrooms from the subreddit r/no sleep. This was made 7 years ago, so it's pretty old, back when the Backrooms was pretty niche and still an original idea. So, this should be a pretty interesting read. It's late September. Remember those nights? Humid, muggy, just a hint of the coming of fall. Too cold for a t shirt, but too warm for a sweater. These are the nights best spent at Cook Place Community Mall in my modest Midwest hometown. A diamond in the rough in my eyes. This shopping center is a break from the monotony of tired hardware stores and family grocers that line the main street. The Cook Place Mall is typically packed with capacity, but not tonight, because it was 8:15 p.m. on a Tuesday night, 45 minutes until close. Not exactly prime windows for shopping hours. Despite that, my three friends and I were still going strong. We were ending the night in a dusty arcade located in the basement of the shopping mall. It was down a short flight of stairs between Dairy Queen and Sbarro. Faded and flickering carnival lights lined the dimly lit hallways and steps. "Andy, do you have another quarter?" Philip, my youngest friend, questioned as the words "game over" splattered across the screen. Philip was 12 years old and a bit underdeveloped for his age. Andrew, his older brother, my best friend, and my biology partner scowled as he rummaged through his pockets in vain. "Maybe if you were a bit better at the game, I'd have more quarters for you to play on." It was 8:16 p.m., and it seemed our time in the arcade may be coming to a close. I had a few loose quarters in my left pocket, but that was going to stay secret. I was hoping to spend it on Coke tomorrow before class started. Clay, a guy Andy and I had just met in biology, had clearly been waiting for this moment. "Honestly, yeah guys, it's getting a bit late and I think I'm gonna bounce. Gotta study for our exam on cellular reproduction." The exam wasn't for a week yet, but I wasn't bothered. Clay had been acting a bit ambivalent since we got to the mall. Seemed he wasn't a huge fan of having Philip around. Cramped his style or whatever. I didn't care. Philip was pretty much like a brother to me, so he came first. Philip, having realized there would be nary a quarter for him, gave up aimlessly, pressing buttons on the greasy machine. "I have to go to the bathroom." "Didn't you just go?" sighed Andy. "Yeah, but we just had a large soda." "You had a large soda, kid." By the time I got a sip, it was all backwash. I chuckled as Andy and Philip started away from the arcade machines. Clay, while texting, followed lazily behind them. It was 8:24, and we had located a bathroom. The bathroom we were used to using in the mall, on the way out of the front door, was closed for renovations, so we had to find another one. An L-shaped hallway lit with yellow, humming fluorescent lights ended with a corresponding bathroom on either side of the hall, the custodial equipment blocking the women's entrance. Philip rushed to the restroom. The mall closed at 8 p.m., so we were going to need to get moving. Sure enough, the thought crossed my mind. The rattly old mall intercom cracked to life with a ding-dong. An adolescent male's voice spoke sharply. "Mall closing in 30 minutes. Mall closing in 30 minutes." I checked my watch. It was 8:26 p.m. Huh, someone's in a hurry to get out of here tonight. I thought, well, that's retail. Clay spoke up. "I might just get going, you guys. I live pretty close to here. I'm just gonna walk instead of the bus. Good night." "Night, Clay," we said in unison. He turned his back and walked away, turning right to depart the mall. Andy and I looked at one another. "I don't know. Kind of a wet blanket. He seemed really cool when I met him," Andy explained. "Nah, he was okay. Maybe just a bit quiet. The texting was a bit annoying though." Our attention was drawn to the sound of a flush from the bathroom. Andy's face twisted in a mischievous grin. Hey, we should give Philip a little fright when he comes out. Remembering how jumpy Philip tended to be. I felt a pang of guilt. It really wasn't very nice to spook him, and we did it often. Nevertheless, I stood on the other side of the door, opposite Andy, waiting for Philip to step between us. not expecting a thing. The door swung open. Philip stepped out into the hallway, focused on drying his hands on his pants. He stepped by none the wiser. "Ah!" Andy yelled as we grabbed a shoulder. Philip yelled as he twisted around and fell backwards. Philip fell into the wall. And then, Philip fell into the wall. That's the only way I know how to describe it. One moment, he slipped off his feet and crashed into the wall. The next, everything but his legs had gone through the wall, as if there was a perfectly shaped hole in the concrete. Philip's legs spasmed in the air in the same looping, spastic patterns for but a few seconds. And then there was left nothing but solid concrete. "What? Andy stuttered as he fell to his knees, his face a mixture of curiosity and confusion. As he shuffled towards the wall, his face turned to fear. I don't understand. Philip!" He shouted his brother's name through a desperate cry. "Philip!" He slammed his hands onto the wall. Once, twice, not a third time. Andy's head now protruded from the wall, facing the ceiling. His head seized from side to side as he continued to scream for his brother. Gosh, he sounded like he was yelling through a box fan. I stepped backwards as my best friend disappeared from sight, and I was left with his scream bouncing off the hallway walls, intensifying as it mixed with the hum of the fluorescent light. My back pressed against the bathroom door, and I jumped. I screamed as my world exploded with static, deafening and blinding me. The noise was unbearable, and the grain obscured everything. And at once, it stopped. I clutched my head in my hands, eyes squeezed shut. The static had dissipated, but replaced with the hum of fluorescent lights, and the all too familiar yellow glow through my eyelids. But there was something new, a smell that hadn't been there before. The musty, wet smell of carpet. Carpet that should have been changed decades ago. The smell reminded me of the dilapidated bowling alley down the road from the mall. I opened my eyes. Before me was a bathroom hallway, as expected, lit by the same lights as before. Bathroom doors were gone. There were no more doors, no more custodial equipment, just a smooth slab of concrete wall. I got to my feet and looked around me cautiously. It seemed I was in the mall still, but it was quiet. It felt different. The fluorescent hum buzz was too loud. My ears itched. I walked down the hallway in the direction of the food court. As I turned the corner, I was met with not the opening to the food court as expected, but by another abrupt 90-degree corner, turning to the left. Ding dong. I froze. The loudspeaker was engaged. The empty air of the speaker nearest to me told me that, but the operator had nothing to say. After a motionless moment, which felt like hours, the microphone snapped back into the console, cutting the empty noise. Whomever had activated the speaker seemed to have hung up. Confused and growing ever more frightful of where I had found myself, I turned the corner. I was met with a large, empty room that I had never seen before. It was about the size of a classroom, with stained concrete walls. The smell of must was even stronger in here. Each wall had an identical rectangular door-shaped opening that seemed to be placed at randomly decided positions among the wall. The popcorn ceiling, littered with smears of dirt and greasy imprints, had long cracks spanning it. This room was clearly in need of renovation. I don't understand, I muttered out loud. I truly didn't. The featureless room served no purpose other than a passageway to these other rooms. The lack of planning and absent attempt at caring for the room made me feel as if the place was long forgotten. Might as well try the next room, I thought to myself, as I walked through the doors to my left. The room I found myself in was as bleak and unrecognizable as the last. From my first glance, the only difference in style was that the room was shaped as a triangle. I heard a single cry from my right. It was more of a whimper, actually. What the heck? It was Clay's voice. It couldn't be Clay. I just watched him leave the mall. I rushed to the door to find Clay lying in a fetal position in a long hallway, stretching a distance to my left and right. Change the channel, change the channel, Clay babbled incoherently as he sobbed on the floor. Clay? Clay, you gotta get up. Clay didn't respond to me. He never would. His eyes, wide and unblinking with fear, were glued to the floor. How can fluorescent lights be so damn noisy? Then I saw it. And then I felt it. It hung motionless in the air, feet lightly scraping the ground. It had dry, cracked skin that was dressed loosely with torn, rough spun shorts. It had a torso of a man, but its torso was the wrong way. Its frail and feeble arms outstretched to the ceiling, not quite reaching, as if in an act of surrender. It had a cocked head, as if confused, as it peered down at the hallway at me. Dark, beady eyes stared widely at me through the holes in the bloody duct tape wrapped around its head, and it started to float towards us. Every time I blinked, stunned in absolute terror, it was not where I expected. A few feet forward, some inches to the left, never where it should be. And yet it was getting closer, ever closer. What I saw will follow me forever. I turned to run, breaking the stillness, and sprinted down the hallway. I don't know, I guess I just assumed Clay would follow me in the moment. I was wrong. A blood-curdling screech shook the hallway, and I whipped around. It had reached Clay. He wasn't looking, but he was certainly screaming. It extended its long, spiny arms and cradled him like a child, but it would never look away from me. No, its eyes never left mine. In one quick jerking motion, it was holding Clay by the top of his head, palming him like a basketball. I blinked, and it had grasped Clay's arm with its free hand. With brute strength, it twisted Clay by the torso. Clay's screaming cut short with a fleshy crunch as he dropped to the floor in a twisted pile. His eyes had finally opened to look at me one last time, and then I screamed. The louder I screamed, the louder the fluorescent hum became. Which was louder? I couldn't tell. I turned and ran to the first door I saw, blindly twisting and turning through the rooms that followed. Why on earth does every room look the same? I turned a corner and ran face to face into a dark mass. We both fell on the floor. Andy! How did you get down here? Where the heck are we? I don't know, Andy. Where's Philip? We have to get in right now and leave. We turned and rushed to the third hallway. Perpendicular to the hallway Andy and I met in. We ran until we felt we could run no more. And then we fell into a final doorway. We landed in a mass on the damp floor and quickly scuttled to the back wall. The hum of the lights was all we could hear, louder and louder. And then they went all out. Silence. We found ourselves in total darkness and total silence as we clutched each other. No, wait, not total silence. The sound of static, as if emitting from a television, slowly coming towards us. Only when the light coming from the source of the noise started to illuminate the hallways did I realize this room had only one door. It floated around the door frame, toes dragging on the floor as it cast its bloody eyes on us. Andy and I, mute with fear, stood against the wall. Andy moved himself in front of me. It floated towards us. Andy raised his arms. It reached out for us. Leave us alone! Ding dong. We all became statues. We all locked eyes with it as we listened to the intercom crackle to life. Shallow, rapid breathing came through the speaker. Andy! It was Philip. With a guttural scream, Andy lunged towards it. I fell backwards into the wall and landed inside of a trash can. What? I was inside a trash can, filled with the trash from a full day of a food court disposal. Kid, what are you doing in there? I looked out to see a very confused elderly janitor, wondering why a young man was taking a trash bath after the mall hours. It was 9:32 p.m. At least that's what the clock over the water fountain said. The water fountain? I'm back at the mall. Oh, sorry sir, I was just hungry. And I ran. In the following years, I would try to make sense of what happened in the back hallway. I even went as far as to returning there and trying to access that place. But to no avail, I never found a thing. But I kept trying until they demolished a year later. Philip and Andy's parents weren't really present when they were around, so they didn't make much of a deal on TV when they were interviewed. Despite the media trying to fire them up, it just seemed like it was the final straw to send them to total apathy. Last I heard, Clay's parents moved out of town, but they were paying exorbitant PI bills to find their son. After a few years of lacking detective work and a few rotations of milk cartons, Andy and Philip were forgotten by our sleepy town. But sometimes, when I'm going to sleep, I remember, and I leave the TV on channel 3. There's nothing broadcasting on that channel, but the static helps me sleep. Dang, what an insane story. Honestly, this is such good quality, especially for being 7 years old. Anyways, if you did enjoy this story, please consider giving me a subscribe because I low-key still have 4 subscribers since the last video, and your support really helps me stay motivated to keep on making stories. Anyways, I'll see you next time hopefully, and yeah, I'll see ya.